afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cavletics, an inside look into the athletics department here at Bossier Parish Community College. I'm your host, Charlie Cavell, and today we're headed back to the hardwood, talking hoops again with Cavaliers head basketball coach Chris Lovell. Chris, welcome back to the show, your favorite show, Cavletics.
Cavletics, glad to be back.
Well, I appreciate it. Quick stories before we get, rolling with some basketball. No one has gotten a bigger kick out of this show than this guy right to my right, Chris Lovell. He'll pop into my office just to say, Cavletics, or he'll see me across the gym or across the parking lot and holler, Cavletics. Heck, just yesterday morning we were at the mayor's prayer breakfast, and Chris tells everyone at the table hello and good morning, including Dr. Bateman. Then he sees me and says, Cavletics, how are you? So this has become a big thing now for me and Chris especially. So, and so much of a big thing that after Monday's basketball game finished, Mikhail Simmons, who some of you may remember was on our show just a couple of episodes ago, was one of your star forwards. His parents were in the attendance and came down out of the stands, and his father walks up to me and says, "Hey, you're Mr. Cavletics." So, even BPCC Chancellor Dr. Rick Bateman asked me the other day if I was getting any fan mail from folks about Cavletics. So, hey, at the very least, we know people are watching.
That's right. That's right.
Well, let's now, all jokes aside, let's get into some hoops. This was a big week for BPCC basketball. The Cavaliers tipped off the 2018-2019 season last Saturday against DFW Prep. Coach, this game was never in doubt, and your team completely dismantled the DFW Prep Ball Hogs, 115-61. As a coach, there's always some trepidation when it comes to openers, but was there really there was really never any doubt about the outcome of this game.
Well, for us, it was about getting on the court and just getting the butterflies out of the way, first home game, all of that. And you play prep schools for a lot of different reasons. One, the student athletes that are there for 1 year, and they still have 4 years of college eligibility left. And so, you play prep schools to one, hopefully get a win, and get your feet on the ground. But then two, there may be a player or two on a prep school team that you play that you may end up recruiting. And so, prep schools for us, they're twofold when you play them. And so, but the biggest thing was just getting on the court, working through the first game jitters, if you will, and getting our guys kind of loose and getting going with the season. And I think we accomplished all of that other night.
Well, you did. You talked about the playing a prep school, and I was going to ask you about that. And it's an interesting kind of phenomenon, if you will, that's really just with junior college basketball that you played prep schools, and you hinted, have you ever come across, this is your third season, have you come across any players in some of the prep schools that you have played that you said, well, you know what, we may take a look at this young man?
Yeah, last year we played Sapphire Prep, and they had a guard that I really, really liked, and, we ended up not recruiting him, but, at least gave us someone to watch, and someone that, when they go to prep school, what they're hoping to do is to gain more interest in their recruiting. And so, you find a couple guys, and there's a big guy, 6'9" kid last year from a prep school that we watched diligently and recruited all year, and he ended up going to Mr. Ball's league, not Lonzo Ball, but his dad's league, and he's playing professionally. So, so that's, you do get on some guys as a result of playing prep schools. However, you don't want to play a whole schedule of prep schools. You want to be able to test yourself, get those games in, do what you need to do, but then test yourselves as you prepare for conference play.
Let's talk about that game against DFW Prep. Again, it was never in doubt. The score was, they were beaten pretty soundly a night or so before by Temple. Jason Holiday, 34 points, ton of rebounds. Talk about Jason, if you will, and some of the other guys that stood out in that game.
Yeah, Jason Holiday's in a great groove right now. He's been playing really, really well coming out of our scrimmage season. We felt like Jason would continue his play, but really he's taken it to a whole nother level. Obviously he's already been offered by Northwestern State and some other Southland schools, and I even got a call last week from the assistant coach at Maryland about him. And so, it's
ACC
crazy,
ball.
an ACC school. And so, for Jason, it's just about continuing to play. The great thing about Jason is he competes every single play on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And so he played incredibly special, other night, and I thought, the rest of our guys did what they should have done. But by far, Jason was the standout performer from that game.
Well, and Jason, for those of you that have not seen Jason Holiday play, do yourself a favor and come out to the newly christened Billy Montgomery Gym and catch the Cavs in action, because Jason Holiday is a guy that you want in your foxhole. He's a guy that you want on your next to you on the line of scrimmage, he's that kind of guy. He is a baller, and he plays 100% wide open all the way. But he's tough. He's physical, and he's the guy that you want on your team and dread if he's on the other team.
Yeah, he's a problem. And he's a problem because of how hard he competes and how hard he goes. And I'm just real proud of him. When he got here last year, he had been playing football his whole life, and he's never been a year-round basketball player. So literally, just last week, he completed his first full year of working on nothing but basketball, and boy, has he come a long way from year one to year two. And so we're super excited. He's one of our leaders, and our guys respect him so much because of the work he puts in and how he brings his intensity every day to practice and the games.
Yeah, he leaves nothing in the locker room. He leaves everything out on the court. And he's just a fun player to watch because, as you said, the intensity level in which he competes with is hard to find. And it's not, you may find it in a guy that has it, but then it drops off the next game, or it's not as good at practice. Jason, as I said, it's that way all the time with Jason. He competes as hard in practice or hard in games as he does in practice, and it's incredible to watch. He's a heck of a player. Let me ask you something. Do you approach a game like this differently than you would, say, a Panola, a Paris, or a Trinity Valley?
A little bit. These early games, you don't have the scout necessarily on them. And so, we pride ourselves in being over-prepared for all of our opponents. And so when you play a prep school, especially early in the season, really anyone early in the season, you don't have a lot of scout on them because they haven't played any games either. And so they don't have scout on you. And so going into it, it's the fear and trepidation is, what are we walking into? We haven't seen these guys. We don't know a whole lot about them. You're hoping in the back of your mind that you're better and that you'll be able to execute and do what you've been practicing to do when you get out there, but you really don't know. And so that's the unknown is what scares you. But at the end of the day, I thought our guys responded well. I thought they came out, they took care of their business, they guarded. We were able, because of our defense, to get out in the open court and have a lot of fun.
So after the resounding win on Saturday, you and your team had to get ready for a Tuesday night clash with the Baton Rouge Community College Bears, and it was the first doubleheader of the year. And as Coach Brenda Nichols and her Lady Cavaliers began the evening with a thrilling win, overtime win over LSU Alexandria's, so used to saying LSU Eunice, LSU Alexandria's junior varsity. In between games, we had the dedication ceremony. We'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
But, you're focused on Baton Rouge. You had one game under your belt. What did they didn't. They hadn't played a game yet. What did you know about Baton Rouge coming into this to Tuesday night's game?
Well, we knew they had a brand new coach, and so that meant they were going to run an entirely different system than they had been running the 2 years previous when we had competed against them. And we also knew a bunch of the players on their team because they're a bunch of Louisiana guys. And so, we had a lot of intel on their players. So it was kind of a thing where it's a rivalry game. It's an in-state game. It's more of a rivalry game for them against us than it is for us against them, just because all those Louisiana kids that play for them, we didn't recruit. And, and so it's one of those things, let's prove ourselves and all that going on. So it turns into a big game for them and just another game for us where, we're just trying to get the win, get better, and do that. And, it wasn't an easy night for us. They came out and competed incredibly tough.
Well, let's talk about the first half of that game.
Sure.
Came out, played okay, and then as the game started to progress a little deeper into the back end of the first half, they started making a little bit of a run, turning the ball over. We weren't getting as good a play down low. Talk me through that first half from your perspective.
Well, I thought we came out very, very strong. I think we jumped up 12 points in the first, 5 to 6 minutes of the game. We were up 12. And what happens is when you get on a run like that and you get up 12, because the season is young, your guys think, well, okay, we're going to blow these guys out. And so what happened was we stopped rebounding and we started kind of leaking out. Everybody wanting to kind of get out and get a dunk or a layup or whatever. Not because they're selfish, just because they're kids, and so you turn the ball over 2 or 3 times, they come down and score, and then, you go down and take a quick shot, which is what we kind of fell into, and they're coming back and getting fouled, and I think half their points in the first half were either off offensive rebounds or free throws. And so, we had to go into halftime and fix that and gave away a big lead that we should have never given away. And when you do that, you may be giving the other team some confidence that they didn't have coming in.
Let me backtrack just a little bit. I think I jumped ahead of myself with about the first half. Tell me about your starting 5.
Sure.
And we'll talk about the starting 5, then we'll jump to the second half.
Yeah, we chose to go a little smaller in this game. We started 2-point guards. E.J. Clark from Dallas, Texas, who's a freshman this year. Yuri Olanade, who's a sophomore. And then on the wings, obviously, we started Jason Holiday, 6'3", guard from Baton Rouge, and then Eric Parrish, 6'6", kind of guard forward, if you will, from Houston. And then, we decided to go with Big Dave, David Williams, a 6'9" kid out of New Orleans. And so, we felt like that with that group, we could match up with Baton Rouge well because they were really small, and felt like they would have a hard time staying in front of us because of our quickness, and felt like it would give us an advantage. And then we would go a little bit bigger as the game progressed. And so that's kind of what we decided to do. I thought we were real successful early with that group, and as the game went on, we kind of lost our focus a little bit.
You had the overtime, the ladies team went to overtime with their 86-79 thrilling win over LSUA, as I talked about earlier. Then we had the unveiling ceremony, and we'll talk a little bit about more about that after we talk about this game. But, we talked about trepidation with the season opener. Well, now you're off schedule, so to speak. Coaches always talk about routines and staying on schedule, and one of the things is, you went overtime, you had the long break between because of the unveiling ceremony. Do you think that maybe, I know you're a creature of habit.
Sure.
And you try to, put that into your teams and in your players. Do you think that the delays in pushing back the start of the men's game maybe had an effect in the sense that they may have taken the foot off the brake, as kids tend to do, as you said, with the late start, then they jump out to a quick lead, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we can just kind of relax a little bit.
Well, I mean, one thing as a coach that you hate are distractions, and not that anything we did on that night was a distraction. However, kids are creatures of habit, as you well explained. But yeah, there was a lot going on that day that vied for our attention. I mean, we had stuff all day long. Our shoot around was at 7:30 that morning, and the girls' game goes into overtime. Then we had the ceremony, and so yeah, I mean, there were a lot of other things going on. A lot of people in and out of the gym as well, and so it was hard to maintain focus for that long for this age group of guys. But you flip it around, you look at Baton Rouge situation, they had to travel up here, and they had to jump out of the bus and play and all that. So, you've got to be able to handle your business. when your business is at hand. And I felt like we definitely could have done that a little bit better, even with all the other things going on around us. We've got to stay focused and handle our stuff.
Well, now let's talk about, you go in the locker room at halftime, you're down.
Right.
And as you say, shouldn't have been. And you're right. You jumped out to the lead. Clearly the better team, but you were down at halftime. What was your message to the team at half?
Well, I was just trying to get them to refocus. I didn't feel like it had a lot to do with what they were doing. I felt it had a lot to do with what we weren't doing. And so, just talking to them, we had 12 turnovers at halftime. That's an issue. You shouldn't have 12 turnovers in a game. And so we had that at half. We had given up 9 offensive rebounds. And they had been to the free throw line a whole lot. So over half their points were at the free throw line and off putbacks off of offensive rebounds because of our turnovers. And so we talked about those 3 things, about, make sure we're blocking out, rebounding the basketball. We talked about taking care of the ball better. And, we talked about being a little bit patient on offense. But the problem is that now you've given a team that maybe isn't at your talent level confidence. And so now they're feeling themselves and they're feeling good. And so it made for an incredibly tough second half because they had all the momentum at that point.
Well, and then, Big Dave got into foul trouble. David
Right.
Williams got in a little bit of foul trouble, and you brought Mikhail Simmons in, as you said, to go a little bigger. I thought Mikhail played really well in the ball game, especially down the stretch. And, the Cavs were down at half, and then the game-tying basket at the end of regulation to go into overtime, and eventually you pulled away to capture the 98-87 win over Baton Rouge. I know you weren't pleased with the overall performance, but a win is a win. Your club's 2-0, and it's much easier to make those corrections and adjustments after a win than it is after a loss.
Well, no doubt. And I think, thank goodness we're not playing for anything in November, right? I mean, I don't think anyone's great. It's all about perspective. I told the guys it's about how you view this. I said, so we can look at it one of 2 ways. We can look at it as it wasn't our best performance. Am I frustrated as a head coach? Yes. Could we play better? Absolutely. But when I woke up the next morning, we had still won the game. And they don't put out next to the W, they didn't play good. They just put W or L. And I kind of told the guys the other day, I said, at least I'm not Scott Drew. I didn't lose to Texas Southern at home. Like Baylor did that same night. And so I told the guys, Baylor's going to be great and they're going to be fine and Scott will rebound. But, I told the guys, I said, we didn't lose, but we did find out who we were on the inside. Down to, 8 seconds left in the game, we come to the timeout and I said, okay, we're going to run our 12 press. We're going to play it on. We're going to take away the return pass. And sure enough, we take away the return pass. Mikhail gets a big layup. And I just want to say a word about Mikhail.
Well, I was going to do that because it was great for Mikhail. He missed the 2 free throws right before then that would have tied the game. And then he gets the loose ball, the putback to tie the game. But stop there because I wanted to talk about you. You were always talking about being prepared.
Right.
Well, that circumstance right there, they had called timeout, and so they were inbounding the basketball underneath their own basket, having to go the length of the court with the lead. We're down by 2.
Right.
And we get a timeout and talk about the preparation where it paid off right there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
what you told the guys.
Well, and you work for those in-game situations where they're not going your way. And so in the timeout, I told them, I said, hey guys, we're fine. Look, we're going to take away the return passes. Exactly what I said to them. I said, they're going to try to throw it back to the inbounder. And I said, so when they do, rip it out of his hands and let's score a layup. And I'm not saying I'm the best coach in the world, but it just played out perfectly to where they did throw the return pass. We were able to pull the ball right out of his hands, and Mikhail comes in from the backside and gets a layup off a pass from Erie. And, Mikhail had 16 points and 14 rebounds. By far his greatest night as a Cav since transferring here from Loyola Marymount. And we were really glad to see him kind of get going because, we'll need him to play like that in other games as the season goes. So hopefully he walked out of that game with some more confidence as well. And then once we got to overtime, we said in the huddle, all the guys were like, we got him now. And so now, and really in overtime, we settled and we executed. And overtime was a beautiful 5 minutes for us as a team because it kind of showed everyone what we were capable of. I think we outscored them 20-9 in overtime or something similar to that.
And ended up losing Jason Holiday, who fouled out in that overtime.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, you did it with guys that, hey, you got some help off the bench. But, yeah, what a great game from McHale. And it was so good to see, you know, the basketball god, so to speak, doing a right to a wrong when he, you know, he had a couple of tough free throws go in and out, but gets the layup to tie the game, and Cavs win it going away. And, you know, improve the 2-0 over Baton Rouge Community College. We're going to take a brief time out right now, but stay tuned because following the break, we'll have more with Chris Lovell, our BPCC men's basketball coach, and the biggest Cavletics fan around. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's been more than 5 minutes. No, it hasn't.
Hey, can you
I
keep
want
it
it. It's my turn. No, it isn't.
Well,
Please, just keep it down.
You know, we're just having to.
I remember days when just driving down the street would give me anxiety. And now, look at me.
Don't get me wrong, I still don't love crowded places. But it's good to get out again.
Noises like that used to make me hit the deck. But now, I can keep going.
Transitioning from the military can be tough. We all have unique experiences, but many veterans are facing similar challenges. Life goes on, but some things are different now. Visit MakeTheConnection.net to watch our stories and learn ways to create the story you want to live. No one can write it for you. Make sure it's a good one. Make the connection.
My son is a handsome young man, like a movie star. There's no limit to what he can do. I don't know why he would ruin himself with alcohol. When I think about the happy boy he used to be and how sad his life is now, it breaks my heart. I love him as much as I ever did, maybe more, but I don't understand why this is happening. My therapist recommended I go to Al-Anon family groups. He said Al-Anon members have lived through the same kinds of things that are happening to my family. I didn't want to go to Al-Anon, and I didn't want anyone to know how difficult it's been. But I'm glad I went. Is someone's drinking breaking your heart? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
Welcome back to Cavletics. I'm Charlie Cavell. We're visiting with BPCC men's basketball coach Chris Lovell. Before the break, we were discussing last week's win over DFW Prep and Baton Rouge Community College. And before we jump and focus on this week's upcoming games, take us back to the unveiling of what was the BPCC gym, now known as the Coach Billy Montgomery gym. And boy, what a great ceremony. There was a lot of dignitaries there. Speaker of the House, John Alario, close personal friend of mine, Coach Ricky Broussard, who was a longtime coach at Nicholls State, Coach Mike McConaughey from Northwestern State, just to name a few. There was a ton of dignitaries there. But, you know, tell us about your relationship with Coach Montgomery and what he's meant to Bossier Parish Community College.
Well, Coach Montgomery has been a huge supporter of myself since I've taken over the reins as the head coach of Bossier Parish Community College men's basketball program. He's a faithful supporter, always at the games, always has an encouraging word for me. And it was just really cool to see him honored in that way other night. You know, I think a lot of people don't understand, but he really was the one that kind of designed our gym facility and has a lot of responsibility as a state legislator, state representative for making sure that our campus is where it is today. And so, you know, I just think all things come full circle in life, and to see him get honored in such a way and to be able to sit with him in the stands before the induction service and to talk with him and to see just the glow on his face, and you know, and we're thankful for him as much as he's thankful for us. And so I thought it was just a beautiful picture for us to be able to honor him in that way. Well,
we just have about a minute left, and tomorrow your ball club takes on the SAU Rockets, a team that is kind of a new program. 6 o'clock in the Billy Montgomery gym. Be here. But the big game on Tuesday, you play the McLennan Highlanders, a team that's 4-0, coming off an impressive win over our conference opponent, Angelina. Give us your thoughts on those two games in the time we have.
Sure. Southern Arkansas Tech, Marty Levinson's the head coach there. I've known him a long time. Excited to get to square off against them. They're going to play incredibly hard. They're 3-0 undefeated. They play Kilgore tonight, so that's going to be, good for us. That they'll be maybe a little tired coming in to play us. McLennan on Tuesday, big game at 6 o'clock that night. We need everyone to come out. They are a legitimate top 25 in the country team every year. So for us to have an opportunity to play against a team like that, to kind of see where we are at this point in the season, is huge for us.
6 o'clock tomorrow, folks, right here against SAU Tech. The Rockets, as Coach said, coming in, and hopefully they'll be a little tired from their trip. And then a big game against McLennan on Tuesday. So come on out to the newly christened Coach Billy Montgomery Gym and catch Cavaliers basketball. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I know I've enjoyed visiting with Chris Lovell. I hope you have too. Join us again next Friday as we'll bring you the latest on Bossier Parish Community College Cavalier Athletics. I'm Charlie Cavell, it's easy for me to say, bidding you a good sports day. Cavaliers.